Hey guys, Vulcan Trader here. It's gonna be a video on how to be a trader for a living, how to get rich, or how to be financially independent, something like that. Um, and there's kind of multiple steps in the process and things that you have to have in place if you want to, gain wealth of any kind and keep it. And this is the most essential first building block in the process. So, start off with Parkinson's law here. Parkinson's law says that expenses always rise to meet income. Actually, I learned this from my grandpa, and I was just thinking about it and Googled it. Found out it was a law called Parkinson's law. Um, Not the same as Parkinson's disease, obviously, but same name though. Let's see. So, Parkinson's law is one of the best known and most important laws of money and wealth accumulation. It was developed by English writer C. Northcote Parkinson many years ago and explains why most people retire poor. This law says that no matter how much money people earn, they tend to spend the entire amount and a little bit more besides. Their expenses rise in lockstep with their incomes. Many people are earning several times what they were earning at their first jobs, but somehow they seem to need every single penny to maintain their current lifestyles. No matter how much they make, there never seems to be enough. And then the first corollary of Parkinson's law is financial independence. So that kind of the whole point of that is, most people, doesn't matter if they think, oh, if I had more money or if I got a raise or if I made twice as much as I do now, then I'd have more money. But for most people, I'd say 80-90% of people, that's probably not true. And the reason is 80-90% of people don't have the discipline or haven't developed the discipline, not that they can't, anyone can do it, to spend less than they make, basically. And that's just, it's like anything else, that if you want to have a really nice body, then you gotta have the discipline to exercise and not eat too much food. And if you want to be wealthy, you gotta have the discipline to know how to not spend too much money and then how to invest that money if you want to. Anyway, it works for anything that you want to become successful at. You have to have some sort of discipline to do that skill every day over and over in repetition. So in this case, it's spend less, or make more, spend less than you make, and just keep doing that, putting it away. Because if in order to if you want to be a trader for a living or an investor, then you have to have a stake that you put in to buy the stocks, the crypto, whatever you're going to buy in order to make money on it. And if you can't come up with that, then you're never going to get there, right? And the only way to do that is to get some sort of skill or labor, whatever that you do, and then to keep some of that and then invest it, trade it. And if you spend it all, then you won't be able to do that. And the more frugal you can be, the larger stack you'll have of that, and the quicker that you'll be able to accelerate that amount in order to get to the point where it's more than whatever your expenses are. And then if your expenses are less, then that amount that you need is also lower, also helps you to get quicker. So it's kind of twofold. So anyway, the reason, it's just human nature. We just want comfort and ease, and then we want instant gratification. So this is the opposite of that. And you probably heard that most lottery winners lose it all. A lot of times they lose it all, become homeless, become drug addicts, and unlucky 13 lottery winners. Let's just see what this one says. It's just typical story. It's usually so he won 19 million on California Super Lotto, took half and then he got a heroin habit costing him $1,000 a week, and then went to prison. This one bought 5 luxury cars. This guy got addicted to drugs and alcohol. But anyway, you get the point. So there's a proverb that goes along with this, which is Proverbs 13:11. Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathereth by labor shall increase. And then there's another one, like Durams. Substance gotten in haste, or really fast, shall be diminished, but that which by little and little is gathered with the hand shall increase. So basically by hard labor, slowly getting it, you value it because you had to work hard for it for one, and then you learn to use money and slowly kind of increase your mindset on it. Whereas people that don't have a lot of money or poor, you give them a big windfall, they think, oh, that would solve their problems, but it doesn't actually. It would just exacerbate your problems that you already have if you don't learn to be, temperate in whether it's food, drugs and alcohol, sex, spending too much on luxury cars or whatever. Then your money will just exacerbate that problem and make it even worse. And while we're on this, the point of life is not to get rich or anything like that. Money, you can't take any of it when you die. You came into this world with nothing. You'll go out of it with nothing. So I'm a Christian, believe that, God, Jesus is kind of the point of life and to follow him. So, but anyway, just as a prep, this is a document I made, and I'll I might end up going over this in the next video. I might have to break this lesson into two parts, but I'm still going to read this first part. Just as a preface, money is a tool. It is a means to an end, not the end itself. The end is being financially independent so that you can have all of your time to do whatever you want, such as serve God, other people, spend more time with your family, etc., instead of working for the man. Or it could be, doing any kind of good work, or even building a business, building a product that is really valuable, that helps people. I mean, not saying work is bad. I'm just saying, we all need people that do good, valuable things to help out others. And work, it's more the point of doing the work you want to do, or creating the things that you want to create that you felt like you were made to do, if that makes sense. So, but all that comes from, you have to develop that self-discipline of being frugal is the first building block. And then once you get that stake, you learn how to trade it, how to invest it, how to use that money in a beneficial way for yourself, for your family, for others. So, so that's kind of how my story started. About a little over 10 years ago, I got my first real job out of college, and I was like, man, this sucks. I don't want to, do this for the rest of my life until, I'm 70, 80 years old, and not be able to do anything and just be working for someone else and not doing something that I want to do. If that makes sense. And so that first year, I was like, I've got to figure out a way to get out of this. How am I going to do that? And as I was, thinking that thought, the Bible says, if you seek, you'll find, you'll knock, the door will be opened. So if any sort of truth you want to know, the universe, God seems to bring it to you. So not too long after that, I read an article about a guy that retired when he was 30 years old, and it was Mr. Money Mustache. And he was just super frugal, saved all his money, like half of his income. He worked at like a gas station starting off, eventually got like a software engineering job, but even saved half of that, plus his wife's income too, a lot of it, and invested into index funds and real estate. And he retired when he was 30 years old. I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to work towards that. I don't know if I'll do it as quick as him, but I'm going to attempt to do it. And so I actually, I quit my job beginning of this year. My full-time job, I was able to save up enough mainly investing in crypto was what the big thing that did it for me. I had a bunch in that, but I also took out debt to do that and thought that it was safe to do that when Bitcoin was under 10K, and still have to pay some of those off. So hopefully, if Bitcoin crashes or whatever a bunch and stays down there, then I could have to get a job again. But I'm hoping it'll still go up higher at the end of this year. I'll pay off all those debts, and then be in a much even safer position than I am now. Just I haven't quite made it all the way there yet, but I'm pretty dang close if I'm not there already. And so I do know what I'm talking about. And after about 10, 11 years of saving, being frugal, investing, trading successfully, now trade and invest for a living, and just to prove that I've gotten to that point or near close. If it did crash, then I'd have to get a job again for maybe a few years until I got back to this point. But anyway, that all being said, I started reading about Mr. Money Mustache about 10 years ago. I was like 23, 24. I'm 34 now. And but basically he's just the most frugal guy you could ever think of. And I did most of all the things that he said, not everything. Like I didn't ride my bike, like he would ride his bike to work and stuff, and then move close to where he worked, ride his bike everywhere, try not even use a car, to show you how extreme he was. But didn't do that, but I did stuff like sold my car that had a car payment on that was slightly underwater. Me and my wife got rid of that one and saved up we were underwater maybe $2,000, so saved up that money to sell it back to the dealership, get rid of that car payment, and then also had a 4Runner that I was commuting with. I sold that 4Runner because it got bad gas mileage. I got a '03 Civic Hybrid on Craigslist for maybe $2,500, I want to say it was, and I drove that to work, and then my wife is a stay-at-home mom even at that point, and she didn't have a car for quite a few months until we had some friends to give us some money actually to help us out because I felt bad for us and for her, and thank you for that if you know who you are if you're watching. But yeah, and then we ended up getting another Toyota Matrix cash on Craigslist as well for like $4,500 with the combination of some money we had saved and that our friends gave us. And but anyway, got out of debt that way. We put in LED lights in the house. I was keeping the AC at higher levels in order to get used to that, maybe like 77, 78. And then Houston, Texas, that's pretty dang hot. Let's see, what else did we do? Sold my wife's wedding ring that we hadn't paid off yet because we still owed half the money on it to get rid of that debt, and then used the other half that I guess equity you call it we had in the wedding ring to help pay for some Oracle database classes for me, which helped me to get a better job and make more money. But to show you the kind of extreme stuff that we did. I used to eat at Starbucks. I used to get a drink at Starbucks every morning and like a scone or a muffin or something. Stopped doing that. Didn't get anything from Starbucks at all. Didn't eat out at all even. Started making food at home. Got a Costco membership. Made the food from scratch. You name it. There's a ton of stuff. Anyway, this is the kind of what got me into that, and it's hard to build up a habit, but if you surround yourself with people or information of people that think this way. So every night before I go to bed, me and my wife, I started this Mr. Money Mustache on his blog, all the posts since the beginning of time, and start at the bottom. We'd read a few of these every night so that we were both on the same page and had the same mindset, helped together, and we'd gotten fights about it at different points, but I was like, no, we're gonna do this. I had to push a little bit, get in fights because I'd get a little extreme about it, and but yeah, she put up with me doing that, and and ended up being happy that we did do it once we had a lot extra money in the bank account and savings, and I was happy that even though it was painful at the beginning, we got in arguments about it at first. So it's not hard. It's not easy. It's hard doing these things, but it ends up paying off and being worth it in the long run, And this guy, he's kind of like Dave Ramsey on steroids, I guess, Mr. Money Mustache is. And so yeah, that's the kind of the first big step to being financially independent. Trading, investing for a living is getting your stake, saving that money, being frugal, and then keeping that self-discipline. Even as you get more, your investments go up and you have more money. Our standard of living has gone up now, but I bought me a 4Runner actually recently. This is a used 4Runner that has a third row seat to hold all the kids in, and I bought it for $6,000, for example, to show you I'm still pretty dang frugal and not spending a bunch of extra. But it's kind of my dream car is a 4Runner, but I just don't commute really much now, so it's not as big of a deal driving around, and still got a little bit newer one than the old one I had, but still all the depreciation taken out of it to show I still kind of have that mindset, even though I have way more money now than I've ever had, if that makes sense. And that's how you stay in that position and stay free. And even if things crashed, we could sell the house I'm in and get a small 3-bedroom 2-bath house that's a lot cheaper, or move somewhere else and do whatever we had to do, and we're kind of used to that. But at the moment, we're able to be a little bit more lax in our spending at this point in our lives, but had to work hard to get there. And let's see how much time I got on this. I'm probably I'll briefly go over these. These are all the different things that we did to kind of get to where we're at. So first is get a mortgage. So which might sound kind of silly, but I guess it depends. If you're living with your parents and you're single and you don't have any expense, then yeah, keep living with your parents and then pocket all that extra money and invest it into something good. And then if you, yeah, whenever we started in this, I was already married and then about to have my first kid, so getting a house made sense compared to like basically my first mortgage on our 3-bedroom, 2-bath house ended up being the same or maybe a little less actually after you take the principal that we were saving on the mortgage as our apartment that we were in before. So it made sense in our case. But if you, yeah. So, but if you basically have to, just figure out what all you got the insurance, property taxes, your principal and interest, and you got to learn how to figure that out, calculate it. If that's amount is going to be about the same or less than whatever an equivalent apartment would be, then get a mortgage. If not, then an apartment maybe makes more sense. Could depend on your area, but where we're at, that makes more sense usually, and I'd say that's the case most places. But you end up getting to keep, maybe 1/4 at the beginning of even a 30-year mortgage of whatever you pay every month because you got to live somewhere anyway. So you keep a little bit of that. It's kind of like a forced savings account, and then you either move and you get it. Maybe if you grow your family, you get a bigger place, but not still too crazy. And assuming your income's gone up and you can afford that, or you just stay where you're at. And then the other, if you want to go next level, is you buy we didn't end up doing this just because I already had a kid and then had a second one on the way not too long after that. But you could get, it's a little bit hard to do and there's not many around this area, but you get a duplex, a triplex, a quadruplex. You can get a mortgage on one just like you would a single family home, and then you rent out the other 1, 2, or 3 units, and then you make money off of those. So that's a good way to do that. But that's why I say everyone should get a mortgage, because it's just a forced savings account. It's something you have to live in anyway, and it adds up over time, just constantly paying that mortgage and getting that extra principal, and the amount that you put toward the principal grows every month. And then the house is most likely going to go up in value over the long term if you stay in it long enough. If you're moving like every year, maybe it doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's that. And then as far as car and gas, as cheap a car as possible that gets good gas mileage, like 30 to 50 miles per gallon. You're going to buy it on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, or maybe a used car dealership if they get a good deal on one. And if you buy even a 5-year-old car, it's going to be, let's say, $10,000 to $15,000. A brand new one's going to be $30,000. Over 10 years, you lose like $3,000 to $5,000 a year on a new one in depreciation, and then maybe $1,000 to $3,000 on one that's 5 years old that's worth $10,000 to $15,000. If you get one that's under at least 10 years old with like 150,000 miles, like a Toyota, Honda, or there's a website called Dashboard Light Rankings. You can Google it, but it shows you statistically most reliable cars. So you go in statistically most reliable, you buy it cash cheap, or you can use DCU.org. They'll let you buy on Craigslist or on Facebook Marketplace from an individual digital credit union. But I've done that on on our minivan. I wanted to keep the cash and invest it into Bitcoin, and so that's why I did that. But that's kind of the mindset for cars. For home insurance, we use Geico or Esurance. They're cheapest usually, but bundle them together. Sometimes it changes, but you try and find an insurance broker like was it Goosehead Insurance I found recently that can search around, and that ended up being cheaper at our most recent house and stuff than using Geico. But Geico is always cheapest up until this current house. And then see, like I don't just keep whatever insurance I had. I shop around every so often. I feel like it's getting too expensive, so it's another way to reduce recurring expenses. And then car insurance, basically the same thing, except so if you have a cheap car, you don't lose money in depreciation. You only have to have liability insurance, which ends up being way cheaper. It's like 50% cheaper a lot of times that you're paying per month. And then also you're getting a car that's cheaper on gas, and then because your car is not worth that much, even if your car gets wrecked, that's why your downside risk is very low. If the car is only worth $3,000 to $5,000, then you're saving so much money and you're being frugal that you can easily get another one cash if that's I guess the downside of using DCU is that you have to have full coverage insurance. So you have to do the math on that if it makes more sense to keep that cash and invest it, or that'd be the only case where it's better if you're investing the extra cash by getting a loan, but then you have to have full coverage insurance. But if you buy cash, then you can have just liability. Your downside risk is limited. But yeah, these are all things I did. Is limited just because it's a cheap car, even if the whole thing got totaled, and you just buy another cheap one. Cell phone, we had Republic Wireless for years. It was only $10 a month with the older ones. You could probably still find them on eBay, but and we had no data on our phones. We're using Google Maps offline to get to place it. That's because it's really the only time, because there's Wi-Fi everywhere. Pretty much any store you go, doesn't matter, Target, Starbucks, yada yada, they have Wi-Fi everywhere. So we use Wi-Fi wherever we go. Plus we had Wi-Fi at our house. And for as far as GPS, either you can get you a TomTom or a Garmin if you wanted, or you just use Google. You can download your entire city, Google Maps offline, and then then you don't have to have data on your phone. And then I think they have data plans with like a gig of data for maybe $25 a month now or something like that. And then their lowest plan now is $15 a month. There's another one called Freedom Pop that's even cheaper. I want to say it's like $5 a month. Oh yeah, there it is, which is. If you have a family plan with them, it's $5 per line for unlimited calling and texting, 1 gig of shared data. That's what it used to be. I haven't checked it recently. You have to use their app to do calling and texting, so that's for that. We used to live in Houston, and you could use powertochoose.org, and so you could anytime you could choose between electric providers and get cheaper rate all the time. So every time that contract was up, I was always, changing it. And they used to have these things where they give you a rebate if you used it between a certain amount. So, that was pretty crazy. If you used between, at one point I had a plan that refunded me $90 if I used between 1,000 and 1,500 kilowatt hours per month. And then I used this smarter meter Texas where you could hook up your smart meter to it. And so I would basically figure out where we were going to hit at and change my AC bill to or my AC temperature, so I would hit between 1,000 and 1,500. And then you also could get a credit for referring other people with this one electric provider that did this. So I referred my mom and was doing that, so I got I can't remember, maybe a $5 discount each month for for referring people. So by hitting right at the perfect amount on my kilowatt hours and referring people, I paid only, I got it to $12 for using 1,100 kilowatt hours 1 month because I hit right at the right amount. So anyway, just you start to think like this, you get creative, really frugal. I don't bother with this type of stuff now because the point now where saving $100 isn't really a big win for me. Saving $1,000 where it matters, and unless it's a bunch of hundreds, I don't know if that makes any sense, but when you're in the wealth accumulation phase, even $10, $100, those are really big savings, right? And then, I still try and do it if it's easy, but if I spend that much effort, I wouldn't go through at this point in my life unless I lost a bunch of money and got back down to that point, in which case I would. Like I was, one of my old workplaces at the time, they were I was in IT, and then they had getting rid of all the old cell phones. So I asked if I could have them because they were from Verizon. They were gonna throw them away anyway, and I was selling those for $20 to $60 a piece on eBay to make some extra money. Whenever I was at home, and so that I always had a side gig doing little bitty IT jobs and stuff like that for small businesses on top of my full-time job. And then internet. This is something else I used to do. I would have the cheapest internet plan that they offered wherever I lived. I was using. So let's see, 5 megabits per second is fast enough to stream Netflix or YouTube in 720p, and 10 megabits is fast enough for 1080, and you can even do, it's good enough for 2 video streams at the low. Maybe you could do 1 1080, maybe 2 720, but they'll try and tell you need more than that. Now you get 25 for even the cheapest price, but I would do the absolute lowest rock bottom speed that they had, and then Yeah, and then the other thing is that with Comcast, or it was usually the cheapest for us, but it may be AT&T too. But if you try and cancel, they won't give you the lowest price. Tried to do this many times. So what I'd do was every year, whenever the new customer sign up bonus was up, I'd switch it. We'd sign up in my wife's name, and then I get the new customer sign up bonus again. So I was only paying, $30 a month for internet for years, and then. Yeah, because it would be $50 after the year had passed, and so that's all I do. Just switch between my name and hers every year. Cancel, re-sign up under same location but different person, and then you get to keep the new customer rate always. TV, obviously get rid of that. You get Netflix for $10 a month, or you got Amazon Prime if you get a Prime membership. Now I'd say Prime's worth it if you use it enough and you get stuff that's cheap sent to your house, and you can just use Prime free with that, and you get some music for free with it, yada yada. But if you want to be really frugal, you wouldn't have that at all. We didn't have Prime for quite a while. We just used Netflix, and then we shared it with people back then, but Netflix is kind of crappy now, I think. But and then you can get an HD antenna to get all the local TV channels if you really want that. But an alarm system, I was using alarm monitoring services for $5.95 a month, and you had to use a landline to get that. And so I did is I got an OB High, and I set that up with a free Google Voice number, and so I basically had a voice over IP landline for free with $5.95 a month to just call the police if someone broke into our house with the alarm. Let's see, food and groceries. We bought most of our stuff at Costco. That ended up being the cheapest. And Mr. Money Mustache has articles on that. But HEB, maybe there's a few things they have there that they wouldn't have at Costco that you might need or whatever. HEB is just our grocery store, but whatever your local grocery store is. But yeah, but what I learned is, buying organic raw ingredients ends up being cheaper than even eating out at a fast food place, let's say. And then you learn to be a cook, you make your food from scratch, and it'll be cheaper than pre-processed food or anything that's in a box. And because you're taking the labor cost and doing it yourself, the food will taste way better, it's better for you, and you'll feel satisfied and accomplished from learning a new skill. And then travel, once you get out of debt and have enough self-control with credit cards, you can use credit cards and be really frugal with them. Don't spend more than you would even if you had a cash system. And then you just put them all on auto pay with Mint. I've got that in the section below. So you go ahead, and I would find which ones had the best sign-up bonuses for one, and I'd make extra money that way. And then also get maybe some travel points, hotel points, whatever, for some money I was going to spend anyway, but not overspending. And then, and use that for travel to get free vacations essentially. And then Spirit Airlines is super cheap if you use them to, as far as flying. And then you get when they're little bags, and you learn to just travel light, and you can, even with all their fees, it ends up being cheaper than most normal airlines. And then, so this is a really important section here, the 401k, IRA, HSA order of importance. If you have a normal full-time job, you want to avoid taxes as much as possible. And so I figured out what is the optimal way to do this. Number one, you max out your 401k up to the match. And I actually have a method to get money out of retirement accounts before retirement age, which I will get to. I'll do that in another video. So look out for that. Or I'll explain it real briefly here. But just so you know, if you're wondering, how are you going to get that out, then you won't have it, because if you quit working early, so there's a way to round that. And I'm working towards being able to use all my retirement account money before retirement, but then you get to grow. The point is you get to grow it tax-free on all your investments, because it kills compound interest if you're constantly getting taxed, and I'll do that in another video too. But anyway, so number one, whatever money you're making, you're being really frugal. You're going to save the difference, and that's the other thing. You automate all your saving and just make it automatically pull out of your paycheck or whatever every month, so you can't even touch it, and you're used to a smaller amount staying in your bank account, so that you don't try and use that extra money. But yeah, you match out the 401k only up to the employer match percentage, because it instantly doubles your money, so you can't beat that. And then don't put in anything extra in your 401k other than that. And then you max it. If you have health insurance, you get a high deductible health insurance plan. You could not have health insurance at all if you're okay with that risk, but and then you save that difference too. Even it might be better than this, but if you do have health insurance, say you want to for your family or whatever, then maybe you can plan on having kids, and you probably might want to then. But you get a high deductible health insurance plan that has an HSA savings account, and then you max out your HSA next. And the reason is that it's the only type of retirement, well, I call it retirement, but account that you can invest the money in the HSA. Like I've got mine in crypto index funds actually. In Fidelity allows you to do this with your HSA. Other places maybe not, but so you can invest that money and compound it, and it avoids income tax, Social Security tax, and Medicare tax. It's the only one that avoids all income and FICA tax. So you can read the HSA selection below for more details. And then, this is Mad Fiat's Ultimate Retirement Account. I got a link there on that. And so he, talks about how you keep all your receipts for your medical bills. There's no law stipulation by the IRS saying when you have to pay yourself back out of your HSA. So you put the money in, you're going to compound that money. You keep all your receipts, just keep them in some sort of cloud storage like Google Drive or Dropbox or Microsoft OneDrive, whatever, so you don't lose them. Scan them in, and then one day when you want to start pulling that money out, and that money's compounded a bunch, and it's more than even your expenses, then you can start pull that money out all tax free based on your medical expenses, and then when you reach retirement age, you can also pull it out too without it being a medical expense. And then number 3, if you maxed out all those, the number 1 and 2, you're going to open up an IRA, probably a Roth IRA. There's a way to do a traditional IRA and roll it to a Roth tax-free, but you have to be really frugal even once you reach, like your house is paid off and you're super frugal once you reach your retirement age. And I have a thing on here for that, I think. Maybe I don't. But anyway, it's better probably just to do a Roth in most people's case. And same thing with Roth 401k. You're going to pay the tax on the front end, but it grows tax-free. You pull it out tax-free if you're putting in stuff like crypto or Bitcoin or type of growth stocks that, I talk about on my channel. You're going to grow it at a rapid clip, and then that way you pay less taxes on that large amount when you pull it out. But anyway, so you open up IRA because IRAs usually have lower fees than 401ks, and you can pick your provider and pick any investments you want. And so I have index funds is kind of what I was doing at the time there before. But I'd say Fidelity probably be the best. They have low-cost stuff, or you can watch my crypto, how to make a Bitcoin IRA and have real Bitcoin in it, my video on that. So then next step would be to max out the rest of your 401k, because if you max out all the others, your IRA, then you can max out your 401k up to whatever it is, 18,000. This is if you have a higher income probably at this point, and then you can either put more towards your mortgage principal, or I would say maybe put more in Bitcoin at this point. You can do after-tax 401k contributions, meaning you pay taxes on it, it still goes in, but it's still good because you don't have to pay capital gains tax like all the others, even though you have to pay tax ahead of time, and you, here you go. That's a different one. That's not the one about the two different, the reason how you change traditional to Roth tax-free, but anyway, you could switch 5 and 6 if you like, but this is how you dodge, just with the traditional job, how you dodge a bunch of taxes and get your money into investing. And then you still have, I still have a decent amount that's not in retirement accounts. I kind of half and half until I get my, until I get to the point where I can get my strategy of getting all the money out of my IRA accounts tax-free, if that makes sense. So then and if you're self-employed and you make a whole bunch of money, say you're like some sort of consultant and you're really high income consultant, you can actually put in up to 53 at the time when I made this. I think it's like 56, 58,000 per year pre-tax if you did traditional, or that much if you did a Roth. You pay taxes on it. But Separate used to be not as good, but I think they changed it now, and it has the same high limits or something. I feel like I saw that. But anyway, that's all that there. As far as how you get it out before retirement age, and I'll make a video on this later, is you something called separate equal periodic payments, and you take your current age, the average death age minus your current age. So like say it's like 80 for a man. I'm 30 years old, 50 years. You take your balance, you divide it by 50. So you'd have to have a decent amount of money in there. But if you compound it, grow it enough over many years, this is why you want part of it outside of this until you reach this point. But say I had, I don't know, let's just say $3 million in there after saving, investing for a long time, lots of compounding. 3 million divided by 50, you can pull out 60,000 a year, tax free, that you're going to live off of. And if your house is paid off and whatnot, that's a livable income, So so you have that, but plus maybe you have some other money outside that, but other money outside of this or your retirement accounts. That's kind of half and half, but the IRS allows you to withdraw this much per year, whatever your balance is, divided by the years to your death. And then once you start it, you can't stop it. I'm not doing this a moment. I hopefully get my balance up in mind to a large enough amount to where this would make sense to do and start doing that. But that's kind of the goal one day. But you can get these accounts up high enough with proper investments, high level compounding, some Bitcoin, some Tesla, or if you bought Zoom or Peloton last year, et cetera, and you repeat those type of investments, then you can get up to those type of numbers. Then, I'm not saying those good investments now, those were prior good investments. I think Bitcoin still is what the other stocks I listed. I'm not saying to buy those now, but you have to find the next one of those, if that makes sense. And then investing, this is more conservative, diversified type of investment strategy I have here. And then I, talk about more aggressive trading strategies in my books, but you could do real estate, index funds, or your kind of growth trading stuff, crypto. And that's just all that. This is what you're going to do with that extra money once you have it after being frugal. This is the whole thing with the HSA, how to do it. The credit cards, I kind of already explained how you don't spend any extra, but you sign up for bonuses. And then and then I have a card for somewhere between. I have a card that gives me 2% cash back anywhere, but then I also have a card for I have a Costco card, 4% at Costco basically. I have one for Chasing for a cell phone. I got an internet alarm system. Amex Blue Cash gives you 6% on groceries. Target card for 5% at Target. Chase Freedom gives you rotating 5% categories. US Bank Cash Plus can give you a lot of good categories. But anyway, over half the places I buy stuff at, or Amazon Prime, you get 5% there. So I have that many credit cards, and I have 30 to 40 credit cards, and I only just use them for normal purchases I need. But then I get 5% off everywhere, and I get cash back. So that's like a 5% boost on your spending or your yearly salary, or half your yearly salary, or whatever you spend. Is depending on how frugal you are. You get a boost on all that, and you can use that money to save and invest as well. And reduces your expenses quite a bit. All that adds up, and then you get Citi Double Cash, or Fidelity has one too that gives you 2% anywhere. So do that, and that's another little bonus. So all these things you think of, that they compound, add up, and this is how I was able to get such a good trading stake to, And then cash flow, that's it's not as important. If you did that, it's not going to change a ton, but it's just kind of how I was doing. Budgeting, you don't have to budget if you are just only spending as little as possible and doing all these things and continually doing them. And if you make any more money, then your expenses are going to stay the same. You don't got to budget because you're making so much more and keeping so much extra that you don't have to sit down every month and look at your budget and yada yada. So it's kind of an easy way. It's not, because budgeting is boring, time consuming. You basically just reduce everything to the lowest amount possible and then try and make some extra, save and invest the difference, and then it takes care of itself. Property taxes, you protest your property taxes every year if you do have a house, and you can either do it yourself. This is the Harris County in Houston, but anyway, usually I would imagine other property other counties and other states and whatnot do the same, or you can do it online yourself, or you can get a company to do it for you. You do that every single year for sure, just to see if they'll let you drop it or at least keep it where it's at instead of raising it. This is kind of building a sustainable home, and you kind of make making your own food and that type of stuff, but you'd have to do a lot of it yourself. Whether or not you want to do that could actually come out with more expenses depending. And then we did cloth diapering with our first kid and some of the second, but then it ended up being too much work after we had more than that. But you could do that at the beginning and then figure out ways to get diapers cheaper. Small business taxes. If you're self-employed, you can get out of paying 50% of self-employment tax. You get to pay 15% tax off the top of anything you make if you're self-employed. So you can dodge half of that. So about, say, whatever you make, I'm just going to make up a number, round number here, $100,000 a year. And if self-employment tax is 15%, then you're going to be paying $15,000. If you do it with this structure, then you can save $7,500 a year, which also you can save and invest and compound that money just by restructuring. So you're doing you want to, instead of being sole proprietor, you're LLC, and you have to set it up taxed as an S corp, and then you get like QuickBooks Online or something. You do your own payroll, and you pay yourself as an employee with payroll, and then since you're the owner too, give yourself a distribution on the other portion. Like in the other half, so you pay yourself half with payroll, the other half you pay yourself as a distribution, and then you don't have to pay self-employment taxes on that portion. You dodge the self-employment taxes that way. So that's that. And then if you're getting I think it's gotten more popular, so maybe these are more expensive now, but you can say you're getting engaged, instead of buying an engagement ring, you buy a moissanite diamond, which tends to be a lot cheaper. And yeah, so that's that. But anyway, I'll share this document in the description or notes, and there's probably more ideas than this, but this is a lot of my big crazy ones that most people don't do. But just show you how frugal and hard I was and how hard I worked to get to kind of where I'm at and able to quit my job and trade for a living. But the first building block is being frugal, having self-control, budgeting. Well, not budgeting, but spending way less in that type of budgeting. And yeah, you kind of get to where you enjoy it, and then some point later you can get more lax on it. I'm kind of that point now, but at whenever spending a little more isn't going to hurt take away from your total income or net worth a lot compared to how much you're bringing in. So, but you get to that point eventually, but you got to learn this step. And there's even people that got really rich. I'm trying to think, like I want to say Charles Schwab, and there's some other really rich guys that, they same thing, let their kind of all their expenses and liabilities and all that get too high, and then they end up being poor again because they spend too much. But anyway, that's pretty much it for today's lesson. So how to become a trader for a living, become financially independent is be frugal, save a bunch, get your stake, and then learn what to do with it, which would be the next step. So like, subscribe, hit the bell, give me a comment. God bless. Talk to you later.